Consider the final words of advice the Buddha gave to his disciples. What did he say? I awaited inspiration. Do your best. With that, he vanished into the crowd. The next week, my rites of initiation got underway. While my stomach growled, Sok filled my nights with basic exercises, teaching me how to breathe more deeply and slowly, mouth lightly closed and the tongue on the roof of the mouth. I plodded on, doing my best, feeling lethargic, looking forward to my diluted fruit juice and herb tea, dreaming about steaks and sweet rolls. And I didn't even particularly like steaks or sweet rolls. He told me to breathe with my belly one day, and to breathe with my heart the next. He began to criticize my walking, my talking, the way my eyes wandered around the room as my mind wandered around the universe. Nothing I did seemed to satisfy him. Over and over he corrected me, sometimes gently, sometimes harshly. Proper posture is a way of blending with gravity, Dan. Proper attitude is a way of blending with life. And so it went. The third day of the fast was the hardest. I was weak and cranky. I had headaches and bad breath. All part of the purification process, Dan. Your body is cleaning out, getting rid of stored toxins. At workout, all I did was lie around and stretch. I was actually feeling good, even cocky. The seventh day of the fast, I felt I could go longer. The hunger had disappeared. All I felt in its stead was a pleasant lassitude and a feeling of lightness. Workouts actually improved. Limited only by my weak leg, I trained hard, feeling relaxed and more supple than ever. When I started eating on the 8th day, beginning with very small amounts of fruit, I had to use all my willpower, not to start gorging myself on whatever I was allowed to eat. Socrates tolerated no complaints, no backtalk. In fact, he didn't want me to talk at all, unless it was absolutely necessary. No more idle jabbering, he said. What comes out of your mouth is as important as what goes into it. I was thus able to censor the inane comments that used to make me appear a fool. It actually felt pretty good to talk less. Once I started getting the knack of it, I felt calmer, somehow, but after a few weeks I tired of it. He laughed again at my shocked expression. Then he looked at me. I thought he wanted to say something else, but he only resumed his paperwork and said, "Do your best." Well, thank you for the stirring pep talk. Deep down, I was offended by having another person, even Socrates, direct my life. Still, I fulfilled every rule with teeth-clenching determination until one day, during workout, in walked the dazzling nurse who had starred in my erotic fantasies since my stay in the hospital. She sat down quietly and watched our aerial routines. Almost immediately, I noticed, everyone in the gym was inspired to a new level of energy, and I was no exception. Pretending to be immersed in practice, I glanced at her every now and then out of the corner of my eyes. Her tight silk pants and halter top had snared my concentration. My mind kept drifting off to more exotic forms of gymnastics. For the rest of workout I was acutely conscious of her attention. She disappeared just before the end of training. I showered, dressed, and headed up the stairs. There she was, at the top of the staircase, leaning seductively against the banister. I don't even remember walking up the final flight of stairs. "Hi, Dan Millman. I am Valerie. You look much better than when I cared for you in the hospital." "I'm better, Nurse Valerie," I grinned. "And I'm so glad you did." She laughed and stretched invitingly. "Dan, I wonder if you'd do me a big favor. Would you walk me home? It's getting dark out, and a strange man has been following me." I was about to point out that it was early April and the sun wouldn't be going down for another hour, but then thought, what the hell, a petty detail. We walked, we talked, and I ended up having dinner at her apartment. She opened her bottle of special wine for special occasions. I merely had a sip, but it was the beginning of the end. I was sizzling, hotter than the steak on the grill. There was a moment when a little voice asked, "Are you a man or a jellyfish?" Another little voice answered, "I'm one horny jellyfish." That night I washed out on every discipline I'd been given. I ate whatever she gave me. I started with a cup of clam chowder, then salad, and for dessert, I bade several helpings of Valerie. For the next 3 days I didn't sleep very well, preoccupied with how to present my true confession to Socrates. I was prepared for the worst. That night I walked into the office, and told him everything, without apology, and waited, holding my breath. Socrates didn't speak for a long time. Finally, he said, "I noticed you haven't learned to breathe yet." Before I could reply, he held up his hand. "Dan, I can understand how you might choose an ice cream cone, or a fling with a pretty woman over the way I have shown you, but can you understand it?" He paused. "There is no praise, no blame. You now understand the compelling hungers in your belly and your loins. That is good. But consider this. I've asked you to do your best. Was that really your best?" Socrates turned his eyes on bright. "They shone through me. Come back in a month, but only if you've strictly applied the disciplines. See the young woman if you wish. Serve her with attention and real feeling, but no matter what urges you may feel, be guided by a superior discipline." "I'll do it, Socrates. I swear I will. I really understand now. See you next month." I knew that, if I forgot the disciplines again, it would be the end for me and Socrates. With a growing inner resolve, said, "No seductive woman, donut, or piece of roasted cow flesh is going to venom my will again. I'll master my impulses or die." Valerie called me the next day. I felt all the familiar stirrings at the sound of her voice, which had moaned in my ear not long before. "Danny, I'd love to see you tonight. Are you available?" "Oh, good. I get off work at 7. Shall I meet you at the gym?" "Okay, see you then, bye." I took her to Joseph's that night for a supreme salad surprise. I noticed that Valerie was flirting with Joseph. He was his usual warm self, but showed no sign of returning her flirtations. Later, we returned to her apartment. We sat and talked a while. She offered wine. I asked for juice. She touched my hair and kissed me softly, murmuring in my ear. I kissed her back with feeling. Then my inner voice came through loud and clear. "Get yourself together. Remember what you must." Sat up, taking a deep breath. This wasn't going to be easy. She sat up too, straightening herself, patting her hair. "Valerie, you know I find you very attractive and exciting, but I'm involved in some, personal disciplines that no longer allow for what was about to happen. I enjoy your company and want to see you again. But from now on, suggest you think of me as an intimate friend, a loving PP priest." I almost couldn't get it out. She took a deep breath, and smoothed her hair again. "Dan, it's really good to be with someone who isn't interested only in sex." "Well said," encouraged. "I am glad to hear you feel that way, because I know we can share many things besides a bed." She looked at her watch. "Oh, will you look at the time, and I have to work early tomorrow too, so I'll say good night, Dan. Thank you for dinner. It was lovely." I called her the next day, but her phone was busy. I called her the following day and finally reached her. "I'm going to be very busy with nursing exams for the next few weeks." Saw her 1 week later, when she appeared at the end of practice to meet Scott, one of the other guys on the team. They both walked right by me as I came up the stairs, so close that I could smell her perfume. She nodded politely and said hello. Scott leered back at me and gave me a meaningful wink. I didn't know a wink could hurt so much.